We're on. We're live. We're doing it. How is everyone? I tell you what, Dan Tripp is upgraded. He's evolved.
He's evolved. Yeah. The evolution of Dan Tripp.
So we have a running thing in our podcast, James. By the way, everyone, James White's here. Hey.
Just drop it in.
Just drop it in. So, because we're going to get this on Spotify as well. So, in case everyone just goes, this is a bit different. So, we've got a running joke that Tripp, our other co-host Tripp, we have a running joke saying that we think you're his dad because you look very similar with the hair and everything, man. So, we'd say he's evolved now.
We have the OG, the real Dan Tripp.
Yeah.
I mean, all my family is from the UK, so I don't know what else we're up to, but who knows?
You heard it here first, Dan.
Oh, there you go.
Oh.
How you doing, James? How's how do you feel now?
Good.
Yeah, brill. So, World is announced. Dust of Dawn's out. Is it a bit more? Is it chilled out more now in the office?
It's definitely not chilled out. We're working real hard on some exciting stuff coming down the pipeline. I say quite often the best is yet to come, and I really do believe it. Like, some of the products that we're working on are just incredible. And that's not to take away anything from what we've recently put out there. I think that Dust Till Dawn is the set that I'm the most proud of out of the first 10 that we've put out into the world, and it seems that people are really enjoying it. But boy, do we have some spice coming down the pipe.
I'm so keen. I'm looking forward to it. So when we do our podcast, we always have this little segment which we call Home News, right? I can see on Simon's face right now. So we do a home news section, right, where we basically just go through and sell a very small home news, non-podcast or anything, just something very small, right? So we always have this stupid jingle we start with where I have to go, home news, home news, home news. And it's never usually at 11 o'clock at night. So my wife's probably turning around with scorn on her face. So, Simon.
Yes, mate.
Home news. What you got?
What have I got? I'm actually going to drop in some Gardener's Corner home news because we are still growing courgettes and pumpkins in our garden. And we've got like 5 pumpkins. They're huge. They're bigger than my head already.
Yeah.
And they're going to be ready. Oh, I hope they're not too early for Halloween. So we like to carve pumpkins for Halloween. So they're getting ready there.
What? Already?
No, they're not orange yet.
Right.
But I'm saying they're getting ready. They're already the size where you could carve them up.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So they're sitting there. I'm pretty happy with my garden.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like a bit of gardening. Do you want some home news from down in New Zealand?
Oh, absolutely.
Give us what you got.
Yeah. So built a dog kennel the last couple of days.
Hey.
Yeah. So even it's this fancy one. It's like leading up to the back door at our house. Like, you kind of like walk up some steps onto a deck, and we've like built the dog kennel underneath the deck, and it has like this internal roof. So when it rains and the rain whatever goes through the deck, it like catches on this internal roof and leads the water flow down to a drainage system. So my dog can be outside and dry. And that seems like a win-win situation.
Oh, awesome,
man.
Is this
the damn mud off my carpet?
Absolutely. Is this a new addition to the family, the dog, or is it a well-established member?
Oh, he's a year and a half. Yeah, year and a half old. So he's really big though. He's like 60 kgs. He's absolutely enormous.
What type of dog
bounces around like a maniac. A Marama sheepdog.
Oh,
so it's
okay.
I'm gonna put.
he's
I don't know.
Really like an Italian dog. Yep, pure white, loves the mud, and likes bringing the mud through the house as well. So having his own little abode outside is gonna be good for everybody.
Solve the problem. I love it.
Jeez, man, that's awesome.
What about you, Hamish?
I've actually got some serious ones, right? I do. I'm an uncle to my brother. Well, not my brother specifically, but I'm an uncle today.
Hey, congratulations.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. I know. I was just like, wow, okay. Born on the 24/7. And then I'm like, all right, got a James White interview. I'm an uncle. what's next. So
this is a perfect day.
it is. It's gone really well,
Big
actually.
milestone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've got 2 kids and now I'm an uncle. So I'm living the dream, as they say.
Family's growing.
I know.
Bloody well done.
Yeah, sound, man. Thank you. So, should we get on? Should we get on with the main topic?
I think we should.
Yeah. James is like, I wasn't expecting this. Talking about dog kennels.
So normally, James, we would do a bit of an introduction about what we're drinking today. We know from past experience that you're not a beer drinker. So, and it's 11 o'clock at night here.
I'm a Living Realms drinker.
Yeah, you are a Living Realms
I'm
drinker.
good, thanks, mate.
Oh, nice.
Fabio's keeping you up to date with the mugs. And we've got a big event coming up hosted by Living Realms this weekend, right?
Looking forward
We
to
do.
it. Yeah. Call in
It'll be a
Birmingham.
banger.
Yeah.
An absolute banger.
Yeah.
With some incredible casting team, I heard. So we can't wait for that.
we'll see.
No, you guys going to do great.
Oh, cheers, man.
So, James, what we were going to do for the main portion of this episode was we went to our Patreons and we put all our heads together and we come up with some questions that we were going to ask for the great James White of Legend Storage Studios. So I just want to start with a question from someone who couldn't be here this evening. So Dan Tripp,
your son. I'm joking.
Yeah, one of our team members. And Dan wanted to start us off with Legend Storage Studios started as a small New Zealand-based company, and now you're this global phenomenon. The game has grown. How have you and the team handled this change from being a small, like single nation company to this big international company?
Yeah, so I mean, it's all about the people, right? Like we started out with 4, and then it was 6, and then it was 8, and now we're like 45 people, and about 30 something, 32 or 33 of them are based in Auckland at a head office, and the rest are scattered around the world in the markets. Supporting what has become a very global game. But the essence of what LEC says hasn't changed. We're a company full of people who love playing games. And I think that's one of the really key things that sort of maybe sets us apart from some of the other big publishers in the market is, we're not a company full of suits, just making decisions based on Wall Street analysts' expectations. We're a company full of gamers who love playing games and want to make great games that we enjoy and hopefully the fans around the world enjoy. Well, we're just dead set on preserving that kind of culture.
Absolutely, we definitely enjoy the game. That's why we talk about it so much. And I guess you don't really have those investors to answer to either. Like the team is the team, and you go with your game knowledge and instincts of the markets as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I've from a guy that's been running local clubs for about coming up to 14 years now in the UK. I've been playing around with lots of different games, from whatever Fantasy Flight Games have been doing, from Games Workshop, and even like small indie developers as well. And the last one I came out from was Warhammer Champions by Play Fusion, which was a TCG game. And I realized that the nimblism of your small team makes you be very flexible, makes you be very quick, and it's not so cumbersome when you've got such a big thing. And I've been very, very impressed about how you've managed to keep that nimblism of not having to have this big bulk, but also being able to perform as much as what bigger companies can do, if that makes sense. It's a very, very big achievement. And from a bloke that's been through 6 dead games and now and being on this is like this feels very different. And it feels, I've been telling some of my friends this in the club, like this feels so different. It feels like it's got so much like weight to it, so much love and thought put into it, and all of them do, but there's just something very unique and very clever about this. I just wanted to throw that out there in the best possible way. I was sitting there going, oh god, I'm dancing across this, but it's just my experience as a customer being in model games and card games for so long that this is I think is something that's going to be remembered by me as a player in this community for history of this is kind of how you do it, right? So that's my
Well,
point.
thank you. It's a very, very kind compliment. But, you know, we were always in this for the long haul. You know, that's why we spent so long in the design and development stage before we even launched, because we wanted to have absolute confidence that you know, the game system could stand the test of time. But more than that, that we actually understood what it took from a business side to operate, you know, this studio at a global scale. So making sure that we had the right systems and processes and the right, you know, people here at the beginning that could like take this thing forward and scale it up. You know, it just comes from years and years of experience prior to Legend Story Studios, from the initially from the founders, but over recent times, like we've just so many incredible people have joined the studio, and that's been really exciting for us, is getting these people who can carry us up to that next level, people who are smarter than whatever their specialty is. So, you know, I can, you know, start you know, spending more of my time and my focus actually on the area that maybe is my strength, which is product design, and pass off some of these other things to other people who are like way better at whatever that thing is than I could possibly do. But for a very long time, because of the nature of being a small business and a startup and having a small team, like myself and my co-founders, we had to wear a lot of different hats. So that's been like a really an exciting part of the journey for us, is just like bringing on exceptional talent, and you know, seeing like the next level of leadership build into Legend Story Studios. And that sort of comes back to that first question that you asked as well, Simon, of like, how have we gone from this small company at the bottom of the world to, like, you know, becoming a global, you know, publisher and have a global presence? And yeah, it is about the people, and it is about bringing, you know, expertise in different areas to be able to support that scale up.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I want to throw you into the next question by Jake Arms. What would you say were your biggest influences when coming up with the setting and storyline for Flesh and Blood?
Yeah, so I've always been just a lover of fantasy, right? Like growing up, you know, I've spoken this a few times. I'm a first generation New Zealander. All my family comes from UK, so it's always been, you know, a lot of European sort of folklore and medieval history surrounding me during my childhood. So yeah, King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, by far my favorite, you know, most beloved story growing up. And you know, I was very lucky when I was 8 years old. My grandparents took me to UK and took me on a 6 week road trip around the castles of England,
Wow.
including, you know, ending in Tintagel to go and see, you know, Arthur's you know, supposed castle down on that shoreline. So like, just I've always sort of been steeped in fantasy. And you know, in more recent years, my wife is Chinese. We've been married for 19 years, so she sort of brought in a different I guess type of culture and fantasy into our life. So I've read like a lot of the Chinese classical fantasy novels as well. So like that's, you know, also shaped influences on me in a different way. But yeah, like as far as like games go, like I played a lot of trading card games over the years, just like so many different trading card games, and that each of the games has you know, something beautiful about it, and that's inspirational in one way or another. Obviously, Magic is the one that I played the most, you know, deeply. You know, I played Magic very, very deeply for a long time, but I played like lots and lots of different games over the years. And yeah, probably in my early teens, I played a lot of console games, Sega Mega Drive, all of that good stuff, and a lot of arcade games as well, a lot of fighting games, and you know, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, these sorts of games. But yeah, that's sort of I guess the gist of it. But I've always had a big imagination. Even, you know, when I was a kid, just would have these like epic, you know, like battle scenes, whether it was with Lego or little GI Joe like figurines, whatever, that would just like, you know, go on for weeks and weeks, and my mom would be shouting at me to clean up my room, and I'm like, don't you touch my battle scene, like, get the fucking hands off it, like keep the door closed. But you know, like there would just be like these massive like battles in my mind of like, you know, whatever the medium was. So I don't know, I guess I just kind of like have always been away with the theories or with some fucking crazy fantasy epic shit going on in my brain.
It's interesting. It's interesting you mentioned the fighting games like Street Fighter, because I know a couple of content creators have recently been talking a lot about comparing Flesh and Blood to the fighting games and the mechanics that
shout out
the
to Gorgonian
similarities.
Toe, man. He's did a really epic video that just really ties in, and it really hit home for me as well about that when I first started, and I was just seeing Bravo, seeing like just Welcome to Wraith, and having that feeling of going, oh, these are like moves, and we're doing moves on each other. You know, that's my first experience of it, and when he did that video, it really did tie in very well.
Yeah, so was that the Gorgonian Tome video?
Yeah,
that was a good video. That was awesome.
It was great. He's been really gaining traction. Actually, he's been a really great guy.
Yeah, I think that there's something, there's a lot to what he was explaining in that video. Like the Fish and Blood game system, it's unlike any other TCG that's existed as far as I'm aware. It's just it has a very different ebb and flow to it, and I think that there can be some really strong analogies made to like 1v1 fighting games like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and so on. And like they certainly had like quite a big influence on me. Like I played a hell of a lot of Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat in my early teens. Yeah.
I'm a big Viserai fan. Mega Viserai fan. Okay. So my question to you is, where has Viserai gone to? Is he fighting with the Disciples of Pain and Soul? Or is he off on his own quest? The quest, the Vast Beyond, tells me he's gone into Arathiel to search for something. And I've seen that little flavor text. He's got some dudes with him. What's going on, man? Where is he? He opened up the gates of Arathiel, and yeah, that's my question. Or is it to be continued?
You're like a kid who wants to just jump to the last chapter.
Look, I've just so what's been really cool has been seeing the art of Runic Reckoning, and he's got his reaping blade. He's sucking. I imagine, I don't know. It looks like he's consuming souls into people, and then he's in the Bequest of Vast Beyond, and he says, in order to get the treasure, you got to rip the secrets out of it. And I'm just like, oh, what is he fighting Soul? Because he doesn't look like he is, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm pushing too much.
Yeah, you need to enjoy the journey of the story as it unfolds. And Viserai has an important piece to play in this, so I don't want to spoil the surprise.
All right, cool. He's
key.
Oh, he's key.
It just struck me there that it's like reading a really good book where you've got these images in your mind. You see these different pieces of artwork come out, and each set is a new chapter in the story. And Hamish is watching the film, and he just wants to jump straight to the end and find the result.
Yeah. I'm definitely. You're the guy that's read all the Game of Thrones books, and I'm on season 2, right? I'm just like, oh, what's happening? You're like, yeah, just wait, man. Anyway, there you go. That's mine.
He's got young Padawan.
Yeah, Hamish doesn't have patience. That's not his MO.
Nah. Get stuff done though.
So you mentioned a couple of bits about the sets we've had so far, James. What's been? This is from Jason Hamer, one of our UK players and judges. What's the most challenging set that you've had to design to date, and what worked well and what failed in that design process?
I'd say Uprising was the most challenging, but also the most satisfying, to be honest.
Okay.
Sets that have wizards and arcane damage are just, in combination with melee damage, are just very challenging to design from the limited point of view. Like obviously, one way you can approach it is something like Arcane Rising, where you have null runes, right? And just when you get these like kind of awkward outcomes where maybe you draft a whole bunch of null runes and you're like strong against wizard, and then it's kind of like it can be frustrating and awful from the wizard side of the table, and on the flip side is if you get like no null runes, then it's just like open slather, and it's like not very fun from the opponent side of the table. So coming back to the like wizard limited format set, like I was really proud of the outcome of like the Ether Ashwings and like this variable amount of arcane barrier that could be interacted with by a wizard. And I was also really, really proud of like the innovation around the Helios Mitre, like this thing that we said, like you can just start the game with it, right? Here's this free roll we called it the community hat. I think it was in development. and like just it addressed this issue of, well, when you're going second in a matchup against a wizard, it's like you actually have some agency over what's going to happen on the first turn of the game, which I really really liked. So yeah, it was challenging at the start of like, well, how are we going to reconcile like wizard versus melee in an elegant, innovative way? And I think that it came together really really well. The other thing was, how are we going to like deliver on dragons and like do them justice? Like, obviously dragons super important fantasy trope, probably the most important of all of the fantasy tropes to just like do well. And if I had to choose one piece of design that I am the most happy and proud with to date, I think it would be the dragons, and the transforming invocations. It just like solved a lot of fundamental issues of, if like having cards that don't have any defense value is it's a tool that we use for balancing, but it also is prohibitive on how many you can have in your deck. Like, just imagine if all of the invocations were like just single-sided and they were just like the ally, and like they just didn't defend. And now like Dromai plays with, she can play with like 30 invocations, maybe even more in her deck. Like, you can't just have 30 cards that don't defend in your deck. It would be like shitty gameplay. It's like, tapping into the double face card design space was just a beautiful way to address that, where you have the invocation, which obviously has 3 defense value, and then you get to like play it and like have this really, I think, like evocative moment of like, I've transformed this thing into this dragon, and it ticks the box of like, our world is a world premised on people, right? It's not a world premised on like people plus like literal dragons existing. I always kind of like found it hard to reconcile like this power disparity in general fantasy, or like how just humanoid type creatures are supposed to even like interact with a dragon. So like I always knew that I wanted to deliver dragons as illusionist creatures that were like not actually real, but could be invoked or summoned or like transitory. So yeah, I think that and actually the concept of like sculpting in Prism's case, like sculpting light into manifestations, and in Dromai's case, like manipulating ether plus ash, which are like 2 things which are prolific in Volcor, to just like manifest stuff that was like always in my mind since very very early in developing Flesh and Blood, around 2013, 14, 15.
I guess when you dive down,
how we want to. Yeah, I always knew that's how we want to execute on it. But like actually, like bringing both of these things together for Uprising was very pleasing, but also very 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 challenging to sort of stitch it all together.
Sorry, I was just going to say, when you dive down, even though Uprising is only 3 heroes, when you dive down into each hero's individual mechanics, like you say, Arcane, Illusionist, and Ninja, how do you got those to balance so well, especially at somewhere like Worlds, where you had a pretty even split of pod winners being Icelander, Dromai, and Fire is an incredible feat. And no matter what people say about the set having 3 heroes, or about Fire being maybe more dominant, when you've got players who know those classes inside out, they turn into real dangerous weapons.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that Uprising gets a bad rap, kind of unfairly, but it's like largely driven by it just being drafted for way too long.
I agree with that.
People just got fatigued. They just got sick of it,
Yeah.
And fair enough as well. And we've learned from that. But like from a fundamental gameplay point of view, like the format was very good, and a lot of the top players in the world, after really really getting to learn it at a deep level, have said that it was a very good format. The data shows that there were like a really quite balanced set of heroes winning. When you look at the worlds, like the pod winners were like pretty even. Like maybe it was 5 or 10% like favored towards Fire, but it's like whatever. It's just like margins around the edges. So I think that overall was a very successful product in terms of design. It just was played for too long.
No, I 100% agree. I mean, we at the minute now we've got what I feel is two of the most exciting and most complex and like Dromai and Icelander in the CC world is just, I think, are just awesome. That, like, just the way they bring the game into different scopes and different ways. I think Uprising is just it's sticking around even now. You know, we're Dynasty, we're Upright, we're Outsiders, and now we're Dust Till Dawn, and from what we're seeing now from the meta from the last two.
Well, a bit like
Battle
Tales of
Islands.
Aria, isn't it, Hamish? A bit like Tales of
Tales
Aria.
Tales of Aria is a bit good, but yeah, Tales of Aria is a very strong set.
There are issues with that. But yeah, there were challenges with that one as well, just from compressed time frames, and you know we were still a very young and growing studio, but like there was a product that was designed and developed within the depths of COVID, with just getting smashed left, right, and center in terms of like people being able to actually come to work, and all sorts of just very, very challenging situations. But yeah, like lots of issues with Tales of Aria that if we could go back and redo it, we would do it. Maybe just one last thing about Uprising that I just kind of want to talk to you. Like when I'm designing products and overseeing development, I'm really, really focused and big on making sure that they feel right. You know, that the cards and that the overall themes that run throughout each of the heroes' maps just feel very true to the essence of who that hero is and where they are from in the world. So one of the things about the Ether Ashwings in particular that I was very pleased with is Volcor is an ether-rich region of our world, possibly like the most ether-rich. That's why you see Kano, the original wizard, coming from Volcor, and you'll see a lot of wizards coming from there in the future, and illusionists also are manipulators of ether. So like having the ether Ashwings themselves like carry the arcane barrier, it just is, for me, it's very elegant. It's like Dromai is proficient at like harnessing ether and manipulating ether, and she's able to manifest these like little dragons that are also giving her protection against the other like ether type things that are happening around her. Because it's like it can be very easy just to like slap band-aids on stuff and be like, oh yeah, we need to like have some arcane like damage prevention in the set, so we'll just like band-aid it on to like tack it onto something else. But like actually executing on design which like feels very fitting to the character and their environment and where they're from, who they are, is what good design looks like to me.
Yeah, that's what we call deep cuts. When you you look at this, it all makes sense. Should we move on to the next one? Oh, it's me, isn't it? So it is me, James Armstrong, another patron. And also, I'd say our head judge. He's the UK judge, for sure. So the Demi-Hero mechanic in the new set looks really interesting. Is this something that was brought in specifically as a fix for Levia? Or is it something that you'll be exploring for other heroes in the future?
It was not brought in as a fix for Levia. It was brought in because it tells her story, of this inner battle against this demon, against blasphemy. Either she can win that battle and release herself of her blood debt, or she loses that battle and gets consumed. So it was very much about storytelling, and it sort of comes back to that last point I was making. Like for me, card design and set design, and even marketing, like the marketing campaigns that we run, are very much about telling the story. Which is why I can't spoil the story. Because everything coming over the next set is involving the story. So you ain't going to skip to the last chapter, mate. But storytelling through card design is like huge for me. And Levia Redeemed Consumed was just very much an expression of her story. Will there be other demi-heroes? Yes, but sparingly. Only when it makes sense.
Yeah. That makes total sense.
From a storytelling point of view, particularly.
Very cool. So, Demi-Hero Viserai.
I think when people saw that in the set, it was just mind-blowing. Like, it's a new mechanic. And as you say, everyone understood as soon as you saw the card and the flip that it was just so on theme for Levia, and it was just awesome to see, and to see Mansan spoil it as well or preview it was just incredible.
Well, I'm gonna sort of harp on a little bit of a flex here, right, Simon? Right, so I got luckily invited by Alex from LSS Studios to help do the audio work for the Vincent Hero video, and so Trip's wife did the voice. But when I got shown the storyboard and I saw Levia consumed, it's just a photo of Levia consumed. I was like, Jesus Christ! Yeah. Right? This thing looks. It's clearly Levia, right? And I did even when I saw that, I felt the emotion, the story, and everything about what's happening, and I was like, oh my God, it's Levia, because I didn't see the redeemed side of her, but I was like, oh no, Levia is just she's lost it now. She's gone full. It looked like a have you played 40k, James?
I haven't, but I know
Tyranids
stuff.
She looks like a Tyrannid too. I was like, oh my God, this thing's just about to just consume someone. So if you haven't seen that video, I did this. I got very inspired and came out with this absolute deathcore like roar with lots of pitch shifting behind it. So just to sort of as that burst out thing, that's my flex. But my point is that when I saw the storyboard and I saw the thing, I immediately got the message of amazing storytelling through playing through cards. So there you go. Simon, it's your question next.
Yeah, it's my question. We're going to take a slightly different tack. So we know through your philosophy, James, and Legend Story Studios philosophy that Flesh and Blood is primarily a player's game, but you've always encouraged collectors and investors to be involved through cold foils and previously first edition. We know there can be tension between groups involved in the game. How do you envisage like a perfect balance between players, collectors, investors? What do you see that looking like?
Well, firstly, I think that one of the beautiful things about trading card games is that they can appeal to different people in different ways. Yeah. Whether you're someone who aspires to become a Pro Tour champion, or you just like to play for fun around the kitchen table, or you like playing UPF social gaming, or you just like collecting, or heck, you just like speculating and investing. Like all of these things are available. They're all on the table for people to satisfy different needs and wants. So I think that's cool. I also think that it's really important that the ecosystem has a mix of all of these things as well. Like, for example, when you go and win a gold foil at a, Battle Hardened or whatever, like that's a much more meaningful prize when there's other, collectors in the ecosystem who actually want that card, right? So it's important that all these different, like kinds of, people and with different motivations exist in the ecosystem. So like we will continue to craft and design our product, engineer our product essentially to appeal to the different people in different ways.
Awesome. Cool. So David Dyson, he said, we remember the test print sheet from the cold foils that was auctioned off for charity a couple of years ago. What is your favorite item of Fab history in your personal collection that you will never part with?
That's a tough one. To be honest, it's probably like my archive of prototypes.
Oh.
Yeah. Which is, just like, and yeah, I just went through like so many, like thousands and thousands of prototypes and like literally hundreds of decks that were made up, and like a small number of them still exist in my cupboard or whatever. And like that's probably the most maybe meaningful thing for me, because that's like the journey, like the rudimentary, just like printed out on the home printed journey that like of creation from like nothing to what Flesh and Blood is today. So yeah, that's probably it for me, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
I mean, it was incredible that something like that cold foil test sheet was even available to the public in any form. Like, is that something you're going to repeat again for charity in the future, like little trinkets to be auctioned off?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like we've got a few little bits and pieces in the cupboard to use from time to time.
Nice.
and
Cut
like we
goods. I
do
like it.
like to support different charities. There's been a few charity drives that we've done. You were like uh, the Polish organization that were helping the Ukrainian displaced refugees. We did a charity race for them a little while back. There was the flooding that happened in Hawke's Bay that we did the charity drive for. And so, like, from time to time, there was obviously the St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, which was the charity that cold fill sheet was put up for. So yeah, from time to time we'll get something out of the vault and put it up on the block for charity for sure.
Yeah,
amazing,
awesome.
So the next question is another one of our patrons, Darren Hazelden, and he's asking, around each new set release, as we've seen with Dusk Till Dawn recently, players are happy to make strong statements about power levels of heroes and the support for each new card. Are these issues you expect to see coming by the time the set's released? Does knee-jerk reaction ever surprise you? And are you ever proven wrong in your own assumptions about the strength of certain classes in the wake of releases?
Whoa. He's coming in.
So from my point of view, I feel like our job is to like create game pieces that present a compelling puzzle. And ideally the puzzle was like challenging enough that it isn't just solved straight away. So something like Prism, for example, is a pretty complex puzzle to solve, and it's probably going to take a little bit of time for the world to grasp how to quite optimally build and play that hero. It's not to say that she's just like straight out going to be amazing though. Like she does need like a certain sort of metagame to evolve to allow her to exist as well. There's just some metagames that might not be so conducive to her being a top deck. But I think that like just gamers are opinionated and they like to share their opinions and they're pretty vocal and strongly opinionated about stuff. So
nerds on Twitter.
Well, I mean, sometimes it can be frustrating seeing some of the sentiment that can develop around certain things that we spend a hell of a lot of time as a team to craft, and for them to sort of be dismissed off the cuff. Or on the flip side of that is like when maybe a deck is winning and now the sky is falling and shit needs to get banned, and it's like, can y'all just like put a little bit more effort in to go and find some answers? Like, the answers exist for this. Like it can be frustrating, but it's just, you kind of get used to it. You just kind of got to like accept it and have a little bit of a little bit of thick skin and a little bit of like resilience and patience to just be like, yeah, whatever, people can express themselves, people should express themselves. We kind of try and not take it to heart. But yeah, it's kind of par for the course, really.
I feel that there was a world where actually it's kind of what if we were as big as we are now, and we went and we reverse it back and go down to the Everfest era. So we've got Monarch, we've got Tales of Power, we've got Everfest. To me, that was the point of. I feel that was the point of discovering power. This is really strong power, and then when Uprising dropped, I feel that was the changing point moment of where actually we're going to throw out some new heroes that are, it's not just straight in your face power, like good, like I'm just thinking like Channel 8 Frigid, for example, or something like that. You just read that and go, oh, wow, okay, that is just straight up really, really, really good. From Uprising onwards, I've been finding the heroes and all the power level stuff to be just that right, nice little sweet spot. So when this new Dusk Till Dawn came out, I felt very confident from Uprising, Dynasty, Outsiders, that everything seems to be in its really, really nice, good, balanced state. And I'm just talking from my personal experience as a customer, as a player, and an enjoyer of this game. And Vincent and Prism, to me, feels very much just like that. You look at it and go, there's some powerful stuff here, but it's not chain, right? But I don't think we'll ever get that to that point. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that statement?
Yeah, so we have definitely been in Fab 2.0 mode since the release of Uprising. And you very astutely have pointed out that, yes, there has been a shift in power level for sure. Like you won't see another Chain again like that. And we knew that Chain was pushed. Like we knew that he was like kind of the epitome of what like shadow power level could be. But there's a couple of like key design tenets, I think, or premise that has shifted between, you know, the Fab sort of first generation and second generation design philosophy, and it's very much around having sip start and play permanents that can give your team go again. So it's actually not always the hero which is the issue. So like obviously Chain has the ability on his hero card to give his stuff go again, as well as like accessing a hell of a lot of card advantage over the course of the game. But a hero like Briar, her hero card also has this built-in ability to give your stuff go again. Prism has it, but not on a hero card. You hit it versus on Luminaris, which is like actually the most problematic weapon that has ever been printed in our game. The second most problematic weapon is actually Voltaire, because of its ability to just give your team go again. So like something like the ninja class is the class that's supposed to just like be able to give your whole team go again, but it's not via the hero ability, it's via the like intrinsic design of what that class does. So like that's one big thing, is just less free ways to give your stuff go again. The other big one is like less cards that draw cards, and particularly cards that cost 0 in draw cards. So think Plunderon. And if there are cards that are printed like that, like Premeditate is obviously like a kind of a fixed Plunderon. Like they need to be like very, very carefully crafted. So yeah, but the go again thing is the biggest issue. And I feel like right now we're kind of getting towards the tail end of fleshing out that that like the lingering the residue of that generation 1 sort of like power spike of the sips, you know, with Voltaire sort of like being the probably the last problematic piece of the puzzle that's left. And the beautiful thing is, like, because of the Living Legend system, we'll start to see these more modern heroes based on Fab 2.0 design thinking start to elevate and rise up their in their position within the metagame as we move forward in time. So I think that like the Living Legend system has us in good stead to see the power level of the metagames just like readjust as we move forward and start flushing out some of this like residual design stuff that we wouldn't do anymore.
Yeah, no, I actually honestly feel that. But I will say on this end of the note, we know Chain was crazy, but oh my days, it was so much fun.
It was so much fun.
it brought, I've played him on his way out and in ProQuest, ProQuest 2. I was sitting there going, I know he's broken. And I kept saying, I'm so sorry, but there is nothing more fun than sequencing this into this, and then if I do skies, Ghostly Touch doesn't affect the skies, but I can get a go. I was like, oh my god, you are literally in Sonata.
I took him to Pro Tour 1. I took him to Pro Tour 1, and it was just
the most fun.
A joy.
But we realised the power level was insane. But I do hope there's a world where there's this sequencing thing going on that isn't obviously just to that level. I hope that. But, we know Chain was crazy, but one of the most fun heroes.
I just want to go off script for 2 minutes, Hamish. I'm really sorry, but James, you brought up the Living Legend system, and it's been through a couple of evolutions since you released Flesh and Blood. Do you envisage any further changes to the Living Legends system or how points are accrued, whether it's just going to be the winner of events or any points might pass down further down the top 8?
Look, we review our policies and frameworks all the time. I mean, we're very, very lucky to have Joshua Scott as our rules and policy manager, and like the guy just works so hard and is so diligent and just like reviewing everything. So like everything is constantly being monitored, and particularly it's monitored through the lens of seeing how these sorts of settings are being like interpreted and applied in the real world, right? It's not like, oh, we're just sitting down and reading the documents and making this. We're seeing how the real world is actually like using these frameworks and whether they're working and whether they're creating like fun and positive outcomes. Coming back to the Living Legend, like we're pretty happy with how it is at the moment, but it's not to say that it couldn't change in the future. It's not going to be wholesale changes. It will be like maybe tweaks or adjustments. Certainly things like the number of points that are awarded for the different event types will certainly like absolutely change over time, because and it was always intended to as we keep growing, like as when a season like Road to Nationals or even Skirmish has more events happening around the world, we need to adjust the number of points either up or down, and also just depending on how many heroes there currently are on the roster, we might want to adjust it up or down as well. So things like that will certainly change. Whether Living Legend points start getting allocated to say top 8 heroes instead of the winner, it's something that we have looked at on a number of occasions and we've decided against it up until now. But the fact that we've like considered it multiple times already is, probably means that it will be considered again, and maybe something changes in the future where we decide that's the right thing to do, but not quite at the moment.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Joe Potter comes out with, when it comes to internal testing, has there been a few issues that led to heroes dominating or need a ban before release of errata cards? What has been done and will be done in the future to ensure balance more so in game while also still ensuring that we have a good player experience? Sorry, I am literally reading from the script. my reading is okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no. So I kind of feel like this question is like I get it, and it's a fine question to ask, but I think it's a little bit unfair because it's basically pointing the finger at us for Stavo, right? For 2000 and January 2022, card that was released that was developed in mid 2021, like when the world was coming out of the back of COVID, and as I've mentioned and I've said on many other interviews in the past, like COVID really affected us. New Zealand had really harsh lockdowns, and it really messed up our ability to actually come together and work. And out of all of the things that happen at Legend Story Studios, like everything could happen remotely. People could continue their work remotely from home, with the exception of one thing, which was our game developers actually sitting across the table from each other, developing the game. So we had massive compression on our development pipelines from Tales of Aria and Everfest. And to be fair, we were just like a much younger studio as well, with less people, just like less sheer manpower to actually like put hours into the development of these products. So less games were getting played overall, which means that more things just slip through. We have a much bigger development team right now, who are just clocking up hundreds and hundreds of hours, thousands of hours even for each product pipeline. So like a lot has changed, and also our development team is very well established now. Like it went through a phase of like, of hiring different people, and some people worked out, some people didn't work out. So a bit of churn in those early stages, and it just takes time to find like the right people for the team. But our product development team has been stable. Just the same group of people, 12 people for the last I can't remember, like four or five product pipelines now. So like we have just a really rock solid, stable team. And they obviously, they've got many products under their belt now, and they're very, very well established and very, very competent, very capable group of people, very smart group of people. So I think just all of these things together, like we're just getting better at both designing the product, and that comes from me primarily and Brian, the two of us working together. We're getting better at designing the product, and look, I'm learning things all the time. Like I get so inspired by the process of evolution of Flesh and Blood. Like every product that we make, I learn something new, and sometimes I learn some really big new things as well. And just the fact that we were just talking about how these like fab design philosophy phase 1 or generation 1, generation 2, like they happened because like I learned, right? It's like there were just things that in hindsight we should have done differently. So for me, at the design level, I'm learning and getting better. At the product development level, our team is becoming way more experienced. And that is what should give people confidence that, products coming out and going forward are just going to keep getting better and better. And I have absolute confidence that that is the fact.
Oh,
So
I can. No,
I think
sorry, Simon. I can already tell. I was just going to say, we kind of said it, didn't we? We went through that phase. Monarch, Tales of Area, and
Yeah.
Everfest. That is like a phase, and I think ever since Uprising has dropped, like all these heroes now, I will say it again, they just feel so much more creative, but more story behind it. There, nothing's crazy broke. It's all just, I don't know. It all just feels good, and if they are in that meta place, it's because they're in that really good spot, and the players who are piloting these heroes are flexing their capabilities as well. It's more than just what you guys are making. It's a lot of what all of us as a community choose to do with the tools that are given to us, and we also get very influenced by really good players and content creators as well about directions on what tournaments do. So one person could rock up with Dromai, and everyone's, oh, I guess Dromai is the level, is what you got to do. And then you guys must know, it's like, well, sure, but there's loads of really other cool things that you just haven't looked into or tapped into yet, and you'll get there. Maybe it'll be. I mean, that's another weird question of, is there stuff even now where they're like, oh, well, missed that one. That was a cool little thing that no one kind of picked up, but I guess this, do you know what I mean? If you're watching all the games or hearing all the data.
Yeah, like
You don't have to say
there's
what
nothing
it
that
is. I'm just curious if there's little things that you notice that are like, oh, missed that cool little trick.
no, there's nothing that really comes to my mind. Like our team is pretty competent at just understanding what's going on. To be honest, like I don't know, probably our developers are better to ask that question too. Like I'm sure that there's
Sure.
something.
Yeah.
Like
so.
yeah, like we should get yeah, maybe get the development team on this interview sometime and ask that question, because they probably have some good stories about stuff that was like, yeah, caught them off guard a little bit.
I'll be very keen to grab either Tom Penny, Rohan, or Carol again.
The new generation.
Yeah.
So James, I know that
For sure, get Rohan on here. He's a current dev team champion, so we have an internal,
It doesn't surprise me.
league, actually.
It doesn't surprise
yeah,
me.
the Innovate pipeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Rohan
paid for
was
it, trophy.
Rohan was instrumental in helping me, well, not helping me develop, but inspiring me to put together a tall Earth Briar deck that I took to top 8 at nationals, first nationals in the UK, and playing against that group of people is insane. Like I learned so much about the game. But
yeah, I was going to say, I'll shout out to Rohan, because if it wasn't for him as well, helping, like when they were players before they were devs, just to be clear, they were players of this game, and they're just their process of thinking and everything.
Well, they just played it so much.
Oh god, they were insane. So yeah, I'd love to grab Rohan on. Let him on.
Yeah. No, so James, I know that question, the errata question was slightly inflammatory, but as a player, what was comforting is seeing you speak with passion in defense of your team and in defense of the company, but with logical solutions for the problems you've had. Like you've obviously thought about what's happened and how this is moving forward. And I think players should really be comforted by your response to questions like that. You're honest, you're passionate, you defend the team, and you know where the company's going. You've got a clear plan. So just thank you for being honest about that.
Yep, thank you, Simon. And look, I just put it out there. Like we're humans, we make mistakes, but we are working really, really hard and trying really hard, and just being humble as well to acknowledge that, you know, we're always learning, you know, and sometimes we will make mistakes, but you know, I do believe that we are on a great trajectory of getting better as well. And you know, we take it really, like everyone on the product team, that we just live and breathe flesh and blood. We just think about it, you know, during our working hours and when we go home at night. I'm not just talking about myself, I'm talking about the whole dev team. Like people just come to work brimming with ideas and passion and just like a great love for the game, and we just really want it to be the best game and the best experience that it can be for fans, you know.
And you've got an army of content creators who feel the same, and all they want to do is talk about the game and put it out in the public eye. It's just a recipe for of greatness. It's amazing. And I want to bring a bit of lightheartedness back to the questions now, because one of our patrons, a UK player living in America now, Mark Armitage, he says, the cards in Dust Till Dawn, tribute to Demolition and tribute to the Legion of Doom, are they a true homage to the classic tag teams of WWE wrestling? And if so, what other Hall of Fame tag teams can we expect to see in future sets?
What a rush!
Yeah.
Look, we got some big wrestling heads in the company, and as a child of the '80s, watching Axe and Smash and Animal and Hawk beating up on each other and others, and just like kind of being badass. Like it is cool to give a little bit of homage to just some of these icons from our youth, and I just think it was like a cool thing to do. But it just makes sense. It's not like, oh, we're just gonna force this in there. It's like we have some cards and they kind of like make sense, and they like started off with some names that were like in that general space, and it's like, okay, let's just like tweak it just a little bit to like, a little bit of shout out to some of our fellow wrestling fans around the world, but not like too in your face, just a nice little homage.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Awesome. Do you want to do this one?
Me? Yeah. So Sean Cherry is our newest member of Push the Point, and he's come on to help with our streaming. So he spends a lot of time in local game stores streaming events from Procrest Road to Nationals. And he says there's a lot, he asked you, so there's a lot of debate about which format new players should start with, right, to get into the game. Some people feel Commoner is a bit too varied, not quite as balanced, which is probably because it wasn't in the game from the beginning. Blitz is often over very quickly and doesn't really show the nuance of tempo swings. CC is very complex in deck building with sideboarding, right? Which format would you suggest the community should point new players to start the game?
If you're coming from another trading card game, then I would, and like you're quite, like competent at playing TCGs in general, I'd probably just say like play CC or play Blitz. If you're starting out playing TCGs brand new, or maybe you have like a small amount of experience in another TCG, I would really suggest like Blitz pre-constructed. And this is a format that more and more stores around the world are offering as like a regular part of their event programming. Some stores even as frequently as every week, and many stores certainly at least once a month. And it's something that we're encouraging stores to do more and more of, including allowing stores to use the Armory Kit materials to support Blitz pre-constructed. And you'll see more of our programs being crafted around Blitz pre-constructed in the future. Things like Skirmish, for example, future Skirmish seasons will probably have some Blitz pre-constructed element to it. And I think that it's just like a really beautiful on-ramp for new players, because it removes deck building. So it's kind of like Sealed Deck Plus, right? You kind of at the power level of maybe a draft deck, but without having to do the draft process. And I think it's a great way for just learning the basic interactions and card mechanics for a hero that you can then go and expand on to maybe go and play a Blitz constructed tournament, or even go the whole way and start playing CC.
It's really funny you mentioned, because our local game store does do a once a month Blitz pre-constructed. And I went along a couple of weeks ago and I picked at random, I picked up a Rhinar deck, one of the new History Pack 1 precons. And it was so much fun. I haven't played Rhinar for so long. He was one of the first heroes I played. And that is a really good deck. It was so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the beautiful things about Blitz Precon is it's also fun for established players. Like we know there's a lot of stores around the world running Blitz pre-constructed leagues, and they attract this beautiful mix of brand new players, like maybe social casual players, and even like some amount of like quite like enfranchised players, just because it's like a fun format.
Takes it back to basics.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, no, awesome. So I've got a final question. So, is there any James White end of interview spice you would like to do? You don't, obviously you're not privy to, you don't have to, but it's just a running trend. See a lot of you going on, and you always drop some like, whoa, that's a spicy meatball.
You put me on the spot. I just say we have a whole bunch of product announcements coming out in, I think it's next week. Certainly, I think it's within the next 10 days. So I don't want to
No.
I don't want to upset the flow of things
Okay.
coming through, but just stay tuned for uh product announcements about the next booster set. Um, we uh
Ooh.
we are doing something absolutely brand new we've never done before in Flesh and Blood, and maybe it hasn't. I don't think this particular kind of like product engineering has ever existed in any TCG ever. It's quite outside the box. Um, it's quite experimental. I think some people are gonna hate it, and I think a lot of people are gonna absolutely love it. I really hope that everyone just like gives it a try and lets us know what they think. I'm sure that they will with very loud voices. Um, but it's something that like for us as product designers and developers, like we want to present um new experiences. Like just rehashing the same thing over and over,
Yeah.
just like reskinning the same thing,
Yeah.
just isn't very interesting for me. And it's not to say that we won't revisit certain like set compositions or structures in the future, for like a second go round at them. Um, but I think that it's really important to keep pushing boundaries and being really innovative and creating different kinds of experiences for fans. And the next set off the block is certainly very innovative in terms of its composition. Um, but it also offers a way of playing Flesh and Blood or TCGs in general, which I believe is going to be like the lowest barrier to entry that maybe has ever existed. And I really hope that it serves as a really welcoming on ramp for new players to join the community and at least try Flesh and Blood for the very first time.
That's
That
amazing. That's
is
perfect.
the spice. Don't worry, that was brilliant. That because remember this is coming out. This interview is going to be also mixed into the calling stream. So for all the people watching, you've probably already watched it because this is the podcast a couple of days after. But we're cutting all of this up into the stream so we can hype everyone up for what's to come while they're enjoying the battle of light versus shadow in Birmingham. So thank
Okay,
you so
James,
much.
I've got one last quick
Hang on,
quick fire question.
hang
for
on,
you.
Simon.
All right,
Right,
off script.
you can't really do that. You're literally giving James White what we normally happens. Simon always
This
does
is it.
this.
Always.
He always goes, "Hang on, one more thing."
We've got one more
bloody
thing.
hell! Come on.
Right. So, with no justification, no explanation, just one answer, James. If you were playing at the Calling Birmingham, what hero would you be playing?
Ooh, put him on the spot now, Simon.
Well, based on what I've seen on the live stream over the last couple of weeks, Dromai looks really good in my view. Dromai looks really, really good. I think that I don't want to take anything away from anybody, but I think that Dromai could have won
Interesting.
that battle hard on last weekend if just maybe one or two decisions were made differently. And it's really hard when you're in the heat of the moment, and it's a very, very complicated deck. So it's
Absolutely.
no criticism or taking anything away from Guy. I think that he played very, very well. But yeah, like hopefully he can go back and reflect on that particular game and maybe just review a couple of decision points and learn from that game. And I think that he very well could have won that game. And I think that Dromai's looking very, very strong right now. But the cool thing is, like, there's predators for Dromai.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tadashi's are really good at like mowing down dragons. So like, and we saw that with the PDI on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Katsu
Top
was in the
four.
top 8, made it all the way to the top 4. I didn't see that particular game, but I heard that it didn't go very well for Katsu. Just things didn't come together in a very cohesive sequence.
Yeah.
But if Dromai ends up being the deck to beat, I think that the meta game is set to kind of like have a very cyclical nature to it, which is like a very healthy place to be at.
As a Katsu player myself, James, the fact that you've said if I was playing at calling Birmingham, it would be Katsu, and I would love to feast on all the Dromires there, but unfortunately, I'll be casting instead.
Yeah, I was going to say, brought me great joy because I'll be considering taking Viserai. So you know,
there's the circle of life. Yeah.
There is the circle of life. James, we've been doing this for coming on 2 and a bit years.
Yeah.
We had a milestone that we sat down when we first started. You know, when we first met Simon, we got going in the start of 2020. I always said, it'd be pretty cool if we did an interview with James White. He'd be like, yeah, it would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? He'd be like, yeah,
it's mind blowing.
Cool. And then we sat here before this meeting going, holy crap, it's happening, right? We've finally made it. So, James, I just want to say that you've made 2 very average dudes from the UK very happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk for yourself, mate.
Yeah. I'm exceptional.
Don't be too humble, man. Yeah, you're a pair of great gentlemen, and I really appreciate everything that you do for the community, the fantastic content that you make. Thank you very much for stepping into the booth this coming weekend for the Calling Birmingham, and I hope it's a fantastic event. I'll definitely be tuning in, watching the coverage from home, and just look forward to catching up with you guys. Hopefully at Worlds.
100%.
Dude, I will be there.
It's a stone throw away from us, Barcelona. And it's in November.
Absolutely.
Peak time to try and travel there. It's beautiful. So we'll be there. And thank you so much. We'll bring another. Hopefully I can get in line again. And Simon, this time you can get your push the point play, Matt. Sign. You should have our push the point. It's in the cupboard, isn't it?
You gave him one.
Yeah, I did. I gave him one.
James, thank you so much. And we just need to have a word with the developers, and we'll get them on next.
Yeah, 100%.
Sounds good. Get it teed up. Hey, thank you so much, Hamish. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
The absent Dan.
Cheers, Sam.
Take care. Take care.
Yeah, cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.